Morning. The great bird migration has begun. I haven't been filming a lot because it basically involves cleaning, catching birds, doing toenails, moving them, repeat. And it's a 4-phase, plan if you'd like to follow along. So I'm on phase 2, right at the beginning of phase 2. And what dictates the phases is the situation with babies. So the parrotfinch babies are basically independent right now, and they need to be separated from the parents. Well, let me back up. The breeding season never ended this year, which is astonishing to me. But it was right about this time last year that I got my original twin spot parents, and it was right in the middle of their natural breeding season, so we just kind of went into it, and away we went. The parrotfinches, if you remember, we had that storm and lost power, and my backup generator that was supposed to run 3 circuits in the aviary, only 1 circuit worked. I have no idea how that is because it's hooked into the fuse box, but anyway, we have people looking at that, electricians. So we lost power, got very cold in there, threw the parrotfinches into a molt. So they didn't breed this spring, but bred this late this summer, 6 months out of the molt. And those 3 babies are growing up. Because one of those babies has a little bit of a bad foot, and I haven't gotten a close look at it, but it's not a bird. I bred them because I have people looking for babies, or I allowed them to breed. And I only got 3 chicks, so the 1 chick with the bad foot is going to stay here. And I don't know the gender of the other 2 chicks, and I won't know for a while. So I let the parrotfinches have a second clutch. They were starting it anyway, and I would have had to pull the eggs. So they're about halfway through incubating that clutch. But they start to get a little antsy about having the older babies around once the new chicks hatch. So I will have to move them out of the aviary sort of as soon as I can get a hold of the babies conveniently. Here's Peter fighting his reflection. He has already started picking on the babies a little bit, and you can see like they're all figuring they're all grown up. Like, I'm ready to help. And then the strawberry finches came sort of at the beginning of summer, were supposed to be shipped out, but they were going into breeding condition, and shipping them probably would have disrupted that breeding condition. So decided to keep them here, and long story short, those chicks are now 17 days old, and they're in the nest, so they should be showing up in the next 4 days. I don't know how many chicks there are. I know there's more than 1. Could be as many as 3, I think. Okay. Did you follow that? All right, so phase 1 was through the baby parrotfinches being independent. Phase 2 is moving the parrotfinch babies. So in order to make all this work, I wanted 3 of my parents, twin spot parents, pairs, to move into the aviary and see if they would colony breed as a experiment in understanding the species better. I couldn't move them in until I moved Tristan out, because Tristan's biology is to borrow weaver nests when he goes into breeding condition, and sometimes, at least once, in an aviary, he did not wait until the nest was empty before he borrowed it. So I can't risk having him in there and then also feeding them live food. Okay, so Tristan has moved out. 3 pairs of birds went out last week to their new homes. Great people. I'm very excited for them. Oh, by the way, the only twin spot pair that I had that was old enough, unrelated and old enough to breed this season was 2 chicks from the 2 original clutches that I had in October and November last year. And they have built a nest in their new home. So we'll see what happens. All right. Oh, and what else is cool about that is that that breeder has been following my breeding report, my kind of tip sheet. You know, different circumstances, and so new information will come in from how things are a little bit different. But that means that the tip sheet is good as well, so I'm excited about that. I've been sending that to folks, anybody who's even remotely interested. Here, try this. Tell me if this stuff is important, if it works for you, you know. Okay. So, the next thing I need to do is move Mr. Big and Nina back into their breeding cage. They are not going into the aviary. The reason I have 3 pairs is that sometimes, like 1 pair is fine, 2 pairs they tend to fixate on each other. Like, you're not my partner, you're a rogue female, you're a rogue female. And so they kind of fixate on each other. It doesn't tend to work very well. 3 pairs seems to kind of confuse the issue, and it's just a flock, and sometimes that can work with pretty passive species, or species that are actual colony breeders. These guys are not, but maybe it will work. But Mr. Big is a jerk, you knew that. And there's no way, if I put him in, unlike most twin spots that are very mild-mannered, he is not. If I put him and Nina in the aviary, I know all the other twin spots will be living in a corner over here, and then he'll have the whole rest of the aviary. So they're going to stay in the breeding cage, and then what might be kind of neat is if this works, when they have if they have clutches, then when they're ready to molt, I can pull them out and put Mr. Big and Nina in. So then they can still have time in the aviary, and I do that a lot. I move birds back and forth, you guys know, quite a bit. As you can imagine, I've been watching the dynamics of the twin spots in the aviary quite a bit, trying to get an idea whether or not this is going to work. And what I noticed was that, you know, there's the pairs are monogamous, so they're staying together. There's a little bit of, you know, squabbling. But overall, I would say things are looking promising so far. I've just got to figure out how to separate the nesting site options and keep them away from the parrot finches while they finish up their clutch. And I have not started live food, so the fact that they're kind of doing a lot of courtship display stuff is a good sign, I think. So now that I think about it, maybe before I move Mr. Big and Nina, I should go ahead and do a couple little projects, try to create some new nesting sites. I didn't videotape putting this up, but this is just a chunk of hog panel fencing that a friend of mine gave me, a little scrap that she had. And so I've put the nest ball above it. And what I thought might be attractive about it is that the twin spots like to tootle along on the grid. And sure enough, they are really enjoying it. Peach and Loose look like they have already sort of adopted that site. So I'm going to do the same thing over in the corner and see if that might create a second site. This time I'll just show you some clips of me working on the project. I couldn't find any more hog panel, but I got some, I had some old wire shelving stuff that's basically the same thing, I think. It's a little thinner, it's a little lighter weight, but the cool thing is it'll let me hang vegetation and futs and change things around without putting in a lot of hooks into the rafters. So regardless, I think it'll be kind of handy. Okay, is that all the news? Yeah, all right. So I've got to go feed these guys, and then I'm going to move Mr. Big and Nina and clean that side of the big cages. And then these guys will move over, and then I